right, welcome back to another After Dark, everyone. Hope you all are having a good night so far. Hope you guys had a wonderful day, really. Let's see. I want to check out this video. I don't believe this was requested of me, but this is from a channel called Synthetic Sports, and often I get the best Phoenix Suns content here. So I'm pretty sure this person is an Arizona native as well, or at least probably lives here. Not sure. But anyways, this one is titled When the Suns Randomly Traded for Shaq. And I talk about this often because it was such a weird situation. But Shaq actually, the crazy thing is, listen, it was never going to work. Because we were the running gun Suns during this era. So it was never going to work when you got the biggest guy in the league, you know, the most giant freaking man, combining that with the fastest team in the league. It was never going to work. I never understood what Steve Kerr was trying to do when he made this trade. However, what I can say is Shaq actually played great. Like he was looking fantastic. He was in shape. He was running up and down the court. He was producing numbers. It's not his fault. It wasn't going to work no matter what. And the interesting thing is, after he left here, he ended up going to Cleveland, and it just, whatever happened there with LeBron, like, it was like a whole different Shaq. You know, like he just basically, it looked like he aged 10 years all of a sudden in that year in Cleveland. But with Phoenix, he was looking mighty, mighty good. And I gotta say, seeing him in person, because I did go to a game or two during this era, it's insanity to see how giant of a man he is. Anyways, you guys, I'm gonna link the original video from Synthetic Sports down below in the description for you, like I always do. If you're into this stuff, I highly recommend checking it out. It's one of my favorites that covers Sun stuff. So yeah, that's going to be down in the description. You also see a list of channel members. Shout out, my friends. I appreciate you guys' support, and you know, y'all know I'm in the member section every day, chatting with you guys, and it's a good old time. Guys, without further ado, like the video, it helps out a lot. Hit that hype button, I think that helps out, and let's get to it.
After multiple years of falling short in the playoffs, the Phoenix Suns decided to make a massive move during the 2008 season by trading for Shaq, sending out Shawn Marion and Marcus Banks in return. It was a confusing trade at the time just due to the Suns' play style, and it would end up aging horribly in the following years.
Yeah, I mean, a trade that made just no sense. You got Mike D'Antoni, who loves to play small ball lineups and push the pace, Steve Nash, who loves to move the ball, athletic slashers like Amari and Shawn Marion, and you bring in the Diesel?
Yeah, I know.
Interesting.
Or as his nickname was, what was it? At this time, he was the big Shaqtus.
Choice.
Yeah, y'all remember that All-Star game where Shaq and Kobe won co-MVPs? This is it. This is that era.
Before we start talking about Shaq's trade to the Suns, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos. So before we talk about the trade itself and how the Suns played after the trade, let's give you an idea of where both the Suns franchise and Shaq were at leading up to the move. We'll start with the Suns first, who just couldn't quite break through during their 7 seconds or less era. You had Steve Nash run the show MVP in both 2005 and 2006. Mike D'Antoni, he was the head coach orchestrating the offense. Amari was coming off an all-NBA first team season. You also had Shawn Marion, who was an all-star. And then the supporting cast, not half bad. Barbosa, defensive stoppers like Raja Bell and Boris Diaw. But as mentioned, they just couldn't quite break through in a tough Western Conference. In 2005, they had the best record in the league, but fell to the Spurs in the conference finals.
You know, I heard it was D'Antoni and hold on, that's about to pause. It was D'Antoni and Steve Nash having a conversation recently on YouTube, and D'Antoni brought up a point. He said, "I wish we would have doubled down, you know, and pushed it even further instead of slowing it down," which they ended up doing with Shaq. And I tend to agree. The Suns were right there on the verge. So I would have preferred they doubled down on the speed. That was our biggest advantage at that point. Nobody could stop our speed except for in the playoffs. Dallas and San Antonio gave us trouble, but we were there 7 games pretty much every time. So I wish we did double down. Shaun Marion should have stayed. I'm sorry, Shaq, but it was the wrong team, wrong time.
6, despite Joe Johnson being traded before the season and Amari only playing 3 games the entire year, they once again make the conference finals. This time, though, they fall the Mavericks in 6 games.
6.
And then in 2007, you win 61 games, but you're knocked out in the second round by the Spurs. I mean, this series could have gone way differently if Amari and Boris Diaw weren't suspended. But they left the bench. They missed game 5.
Seems like a very exploitable loophole.
Exactly.
Throw one of your bums
That's
in
what
there.
I'm saying. It was like we were. That one kills me.
Throw a punch and, instigate a fight, and then all the stars run off the bench. Oh, they're all suspended now.
Yeah, Robert Ory does that nasty ass, just like shove Steve Nash in the scores table. But, Amari and Boris Diaw, they're the main problem because they left the bench.
Of course. It's the curse of Phoenix when it comes to the Suns. It's a curse. Honestly, all of our teams are cursed except for the Phoenix Mercury and the Diamondbacks because they got a title too.
Of course, he was traded to the Heat during the 2004 offseason. Nearly made it to the finals in his first year there, but they'd lose to the Pistons in 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals. Finished second in MVP voting to Steve Nash that season, something he's probably still bitter about to this day. And honestly, maybe he should have won it, but, Nash got it. Following year, the Heat win their first title in franchise history behind an incredible finals from Dwayne Wade. But in 07, injuries to both Shaq and D-Wade really prevented the Heat from repeating. They were still healthy come playoff time, but they got swept by the Bulls in the first round. And that brings us to 07-08. During the 07 offseason, the Suns signed Grant Hill in free agency. Hill was clearly past his prime. Injuries really derailed him, but he was still a serviceable starter, and the Suns maybe thought he could be a missing piece for them.
Honestly, he played great for Phoenix. And once again, hats off to the Suns trainers during this era, because Shaq was looking younger than ever. Well, I mean, younger than we've seen him. And Grant Hill, he had the healthiest years of his, except for the first couple of years. This was the healthiest we've ever seen Grant Hill, and I didn't believe we were ever going to get to see that again. I thought he was going to be injury prone the rest of his career. Played great, and it was very reliable in Phoenix.
And traded Kurt Thomas in an attempt to clear some cap space. This was done because they were making a play for Kevin Garnett. There was mutual interest at this point, but the deal fell through because the Wolves were asking for both Amari and Marion in return for KG, which honestly makes the package they got from Boston in the very end just look pathetic. Like, you start the negotiations with Amari and Shaun Marion, 2 all-stars, and you end it with Al Jefferson and Gerald Green.
Jeez.
Real solid job there, Kevin McHale. Like, God
Man,
damn.
we should have just countered with just take Shaun Marion 1 for 1. It's a better deal than what they ended up with. And honestly, I could see Amari, like a Twin Towers kind of thing. Amari and KG just dominating the post because they can both run up and down the court, no problem.
Yeah,
and in
dual pick and rolls on the left and the right for Steve Nash to play around with. Those are great. It would have worked, but get rid of Amari and then it's for nothing.
Response to this, Shaun Marion was kind of just fed up of being in trade rumors all the time. Like, just tired of hearing his name there, and that makes sense. He wanted to move. He requested a trade.
Did what Jaylen Brown.
I don't think I ever read this. Hold on.
And that makes sense. He wanted.
I'm tired of hearing my name in trades. I love my fans in Phoenix, but I think it's time for me to move on. Yeah, that's got to piss you off. It's sad to hear he wants to go, said Nash. We're very close to winning a championship. We want everyone on board. All his teammates love him. We want him to be a part of this for sure.
On the move, he requested
a... very happy he ended up winning one in Dallas eventually.
Trade.
Did what Jaylen Brown has never been able to do, honestly.
Yeah. But Shaun Marion, he'd remain on the roster going into the season, and the Suns boasted the best record in the Western Conference in early February. But that, of all times, is when they decided to trade for Shaq. Just one of the more confusing moves in NBA history. The Suns acquired Shaq, and in response, they sent out Shaun Marion and Marcus Banks. And if you're a younger fan of the NBA, you might not know this, but the mastermind behind this deal, Steve Kerr.
Yeah, it's always blown my mind because, he had a lot of success in the NBA as a player, and obviously a ton of success as a coach. As a GM, this is all I remember him for. It's all I'm going to remember him for. He's the guy who, he created the Shaq trade in Phoenix, and I'll never understand what he was thinking. Like, I get it if we were any other team in the league, a Shaquille O'Neal can help you, but being the fastest team at that point, probably in history, at that point, no one played at the breakneck speed of the Suns team. You're going to pick that team to put Shaq on? I'll never understand. If I could ever sit down and talk to him, I would love to just pick his brain and try to understand what the vision was, because I'm sure he had something,
A guy famous in the current NBA for loving low post dominant big men.
Yeah, that's what makes this even more confusing is, like you were, ironically saying, Steve Kerr, he loves small ball lineups.
Yeah.
He doesn't really like traditional big centers. I mean, how many times was Draymond Green playing center for those Warriors teams?
I mean, he's made it like 7-8 years with Kevon Looney as his starting center. Like,
I guess he learned his lesson, but that makes this move just even more confusing.
Yeah, to defend the Suns a little bit, I mean, Marion had mentioned he wanted out. He was probably going to leave in free agency even if he wasn't traded. And they really needed a true big to guard guys like Tim Duncan and Andrew Bynum come playoff time. But man, you want to talk about oil and water on the offensive end? Like, where you're trying to run, you're trying to shoot the ball, and you bring in the Diesel, who at this point needed a lot more stops to refuel than he had in the past. Ugh.
Shaq's debut would take place actually against Kobe and the Lakers on February 20th. This was shortly after the Lakers made their big trade for a star big when they acquired Pau Gasol. And Shaq, honestly, he moved pretty well in this game. He had some nice moments. He had this one moment where he dove for the ball to bounce.
Oh, that
His
ref.
first bucket came.
Look at this. I was actually hoping that these guys were going to show this because he was actually hustling. He was diving out of bounds for balls. This is just game one.
Nice moments. He had this one moment where he dove for the ball to bounds.
Dude, that could shatter some kneecaps.
His first bucket came on a big dunk. Him and Amari had this combined block on Vladimir Radmanovic in the third. And then midway through the fourth, Steve Nash found Shaq on alley-oop. This cut the Lakers lead down to just one. But ultimately, Kobe, he drops 41 points in this game. He had some big plays late, and the Lakers get a big win in Phoenix.
Fast forward 8 games later, the Suns are just
Freaking
3-6 since acquiring Shaq, but they would ultimately bounce back with a 7-game win streak after that, and they finished the season with 55 wins. That only gets them the 6th seed, though, because as we've said countless times on this channel, we'll probably have to say it countless more times, the late 2000s.
Hold on. Lakers at number 1 again. Man. It's so funny because Kobe and the Lakers were so criticized for those couple of years where they were, they were still creeping into the playoffs, but they weren't obviously winning anything. How fast it turned around.
As we've said countless times on this channel, we'll probably have to say it countless more times, the late 2000s and early 2010s Western Conference was just a difficult place to exist. But getting the 6th seed, that matched them up with a familiar foe, the San Antonio Spurs in round 1. They had a lot of chances to win game 1 in San Antonio. They were up 3 with just 20 seconds left until Michael Finley hit a 3 to tie the game. Leaning jumper by Barbosa was off on the next possession, so we go to overtime. And once again, the Suns found themselves up 3 late in OT, but Tim Duncan, of all players, hit a 3 off some abysmal defense by Shaq. I will say, I think this was a designed play by the Spurs.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know why, but just the way it goes.
Because nobody in their right mind would have expected Tim Duncan to shoot a 3. Back then, I don't recall ever seeing him shooting a 3 before this. It was a brilliant play. It really was a brilliant play. Freaking Popovich.
It's just the way Duncan gets so completely wide open. He's not like a 3-point shooter, but he's a solid mid-range shooter. I thought they were like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's see if Timmy can rescue us here because we know we can get him a wide open shot. Duncan nails the shot. The Spurs would eventually win the game in double overtime. Spurs would win games 2 and 3 to take a commanding 3-0 lead in the series, and they eventually closed the Suns out in 5. Shaq wasn't great in this series. The Spurs deployed the infamous hack-a-Shaq strategy, and Shaq only hit 50% of his free throws. And, they brought him in to help on Tim Duncan, be able to play defense on Tim Duncan, and Timmy kind of ate him alive.
Ooh, you only got 5 shots, Shaq. Wait, I think that's halftime. Maybe? It's hard for me to imagine Tim Duncan went a full game and only got 10 shots. I don't know.
alive. 24.8 points per game, 13.8 rebounds a game in this series. So year one of the Shaq experiment not off to a great start.
Yeah.
And then the following offseason, things quickly just went downhill. Mike D'Antoni leaves. He became the coach of the Knicks. And to replace D'Antoni, the Suns brought in Blazers legend Terry Porter.
Didn't even have to sneak the mention.
Well, wait a second now. Did Mike D'Antoni leave? Because I was always under the impression that he got canned. I don't think he voluntarily left. I don't know. Maybe I'm rewriting history in my own brain or something like that.
Yeah, we didn't. It just came naturally. In free agency, they would sign Matt Barnes to a one-year deal, and they actually had a pretty good draft. You draft Robin Lopez with the 15th pick. I mean, that's fine, but snagging Goran Dragic with the 45th pick in the second round, pretty damn good there.
Agreed.
That's good.
But in the regular season, they just got off to a mediocre start. They were just 11-9 through 20 games.
Well, we lost our identity now. So with Terry Porter, I remember this distinctly because we were so pissed off here in Phoenix. Honestly, we all became Steve Kerr haters. So you got Shaq, and then we're still playing run and gun. It doesn't make any sense. Obviously, you saw the results. San Antonio killed us. Then the following year, we get rid of our coach, who's the creator of this run and gun offense, and we still have Shaq, and we get a coach who wants Terry Porter. At least I don't know if he wanted to do it, but his job is to slow the game down. So now we're just like a mediocre regular team with Shaquille O'Neal. Like, we have good players: Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, Shaquille O'Neal, etc., Boris Diaw, Baby Dragic. But we completely lost our identity. So no more run and gun. We're running regular simple offense. Why? Why, Steve Kerr? We had something unique, and then you blew it up within 2 years. I'll never understand why.
The worst start since Nash had returned. This prompted Phoenix to trade Raja Bell and Boris Diaw and a deal centered around Jason Richardson.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, a pretty good trade on face value, but you're giving up two more main pieces from those.
The problem is we had plenty of offense, in my opinion. What we needed was defense, and Boris Diaw, after losing, I'm sorry, not Boris Diaw, Raja Bell, after losing Sean Marion to that trade for Shaq, he was our best defender. He was probably our worst defender, but actually it was brilliant on the offensive end, great passer. But yeah, so now who's our lockdown defender? Like Shaq? Like who's supposed to do the job? I'll never understand that. So we want to slow the game down and be a regular team and compete with people slowly. We're not blowing them out of the building anymore. We're just going to compete direct. Well, don't we need good defense for that? Like, how are we going to beat San Antonio or Dallas or any of these guys in the playoffs without any real solid defenders? Once again, Steve Kerr, I don't understand what you were thinking as a general manager.
Was like successful conference finals teams a few seasons prior. Even after the move, the Suns really didn't get much better. Like, they were fighting just to make the playoffs. So in the middle of February, again, just another massive shakeup. You fire Terry Porter just 8 months into his tenure.
This season was so interesting because this is the first season I started watching the NBA. And as I'm like learning everything, about the NBA, learning who the players are and whatnot, like, oh, Steve Nash is super good and Mari's super good. And they got Shaq, right?
Yeah.
I just remember like watching this team and seeing where they were in the standings, and I'd be like, so why are they so bad? Like, it just, like, as a new fan at the time, I was always told how great all these players were. I'm just like, they're not in the playoffs though. Like, the Blazers were in the playoffs at this time, and the Suns weren't. The Suns did promote Alvin Gentry to replace Terry Porter, and
Alvin Gentry basically stepped in, and he was D'Antoni. He was running D'Antoni's offense. Let's just say it simply. Terry Porter was a mistake. At least Steve Kerr could recognize there was a mistake here. And real quick, in no way am I discrediting Jason Richardson or anything like that. Great offensive player, great scorer. But once again, it didn't fit in with the team to sacrifice our best defender for another offensive weapon. Made no sense. Made no sense to me.
Slightly improved them, but shortly after he took over, Amari had eye surgery, which caused him to miss the rest of the season.
His retina got detached. The way I imagine it is like his whole eyeball was just basically loose. So they had to like stick a patch on his eye, and he was basically not allowed to move very often because they needed, whatever the operation was, they needed that eyeball to like reattach and recess. It was very, very interesting.
Eventually missed the playoffs for the first time in 4 years. Shaq on an individual level actually had a pretty good season in 2009. He made the All-Star team again, was co-MVP of that game with Kobe, finished third team All-NBA as well, but clearly his play style was not working with the other players on the roster, mainly with Steve Nash. And then during the offseason, they sent him to Cleveland in exchange for Ben Wallace and Sasha Pavlovich, who they then bought out. So they basically just gave Shaq away for nothing. Like,
they did get a second round pick and some cash.
Oh, Lottie da.
Right. So in conclusion, just a horrible trade for the Suns. Like, there was probably no way to repair the relationship between Marion and Phoenix, but bringing in Shaq was like basically the worst option among star players like on Marion's level. Like, I don't know if there was ever going to be a way to get KG. Maybe you could have thrown some like future picks and made it happen. That would have been an insanely good team with Amari there as well.
Hell, they should have rang out Memphis and see if they could get Gasol. The Lakers got Gasol for Kwame Brown.
Honestly,
that's a good call. That's a good call.
Trade like essentially just killed the 7 seconds or less Suns by itself. It ended any chance they had it competing in the Nash era. So Steve Kerr, he's forever going to be loved by the Warriors for, coaching there, winning titles. He's going to be loved by the Bulls for being a supporting cast piece during the Jordan years. But I really just don't think Suns fans will ever forgive him because he just completely torpedoed this team.
Yep. You nailed it.
So what do you guys think of this Shaq Suns trade in hindsight? Was there ever a chance it was gonna work? Or do you guys think like us and it was doomed from the start? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like because it really does help us out. And while you're here, check out some of our other content as well. And don't forget to subscribe to SxADk Sports.
Done and done. We like I said, we were so angry here in Phoenix because you know when you're like right on the verge of a championship and you can just taste it. That's where we were. And we were getting eliminated by some stupid things like that Robert Horry hip, shoulder check to Steve Nash, and then the suspensions that happened. Like, we really believe we had the Spurs number that year. That was our opportunity to beat them, go to the finals. The East is trash, and just, dominate in the finals, no problem. The real NBA finals at that point was the Western Conference Finals. Let's just be real for anybody who watched this era of basketball. The East did not matter unless you were the Detroit Pistons in 04, and this is after that. So the Pistons had already basically dismantled by this point. I'll never forget it. And like Steve Kerr, it's so funny. I think I got to ask my brother, because my brother hates Steve Kerr. And I think this is where it started. You know what I mean? I don't think he hates him as a player or a coach. I think he still hates him because of, his terrible tenure as general manager. I mean, it's so funny how it's worked out as a coach. But like, he was so bad at just putting a team together and having that overall vision for a team. I don't understand. And then it turned around and basically he almost, it wasn't a 7 seconds or less like dual pick and roll kind of situation in Golden State. But he really had a similar scheme when he started coaching in Golden State to what we were already doing in Phoenix before he broke it up. Saw a lot of cool players come and go. I won't lie, it didn't work out, but it was cool to see Shaq in here. It was cool to have Jason Richardson here, stuff like that. Matt Barnes was a good pick, but I just don't understand the overall vision. And like I said, I wish I could just sit down and talk to him. I'd be very polite about it. But as a Phoenix Suns fan, my entire life, I would just like to know. Because, I always talk about 93. That was our opportunity. This was our other opportunity. And we had one other one, and that just happened about 4 or 5 years ago. And somehow as a Suns fan, something always happens to ruin it. And here we are. Anyways, some things don't change. Some things don't change. What happened to our 7 seconds or less Suns? It got dismantled way premature. What happened to our Suns team that went to the NBA Finals in 2021? It got dismantled way too damn premature. When maybe we just needed 1 or 2 moves, we dismantled the whole team outside of one player, Devin Booker. Coach is all gone. The only other person I recognize is one of the general managers, James Jones. And we all know that, like, since the new owner came in, he's not the one making the decisions. He's the one, like, negotiating and stuff like that. But it's the vision of our owner, who is the brains behind the whole Beal KD and Book thing. Anyways, wrong era. Sorry. Shaq with the Suns, terrible idea. The big Shaq this was never gonna work. Guys, I'm out of here. Do you remember any of this? Did you watch these seasons? That's all I have to say. I'll see you guys in the comments. I'm curious what your perspective is, because me as a diehard Suns fan, obviously you've heard my perspective. You know what I have to say, but like for those of you who also lived here in Arizona, you feel the same way as me. For those of you outside of Arizona, what did you think about this? Like, because maybe for you guys, like, you know, not knowing our scheme as much, you thought like, oh, they got Shaq? Game over. You know what I mean? I could totally understand that. Anyways, you guys, I am out of here. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. Hit that subscribe plus button if you want to become a member. Shout out to my members. And hit that hype button if you want to find out what it does. Guys, I appreciate you all. Be water, my friends.